Boop. Okay. And thanks everyone for clicking whatever button Zoom's asked you to click. I think it may say got it, or you can leave the meeting. And sending it over to you, wonderful Mariella. Thank you so much for leading us today. Thank you, friend.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you everyone for being here. So we're gonna practice for about 20 minutes or so. And as many of you already did it, if you wanna keep your camera off or on, whatever makes you feel comfortable and safe, allow yourself to do that. And find a position that feels relaxed and alert. If you wanna close your eyes, you can do that, or simply lowering the gaze. And I am going to sound the beginning and end of practice with the sound of the bell. So if you wish, you may use the sound of the bell as an invitation to bring your attention to this moment. Maybe you want to start by taking a couple of deeper breaths. Taking a deeper inhale through the nose. And inviting the body to soften. And a deep exhale through the nose. Releasing any tension that you're aware is present right now. And dropping down the shoulders. Softening the jaw. Maybe also taking a moment to arrange yourself in the space you're in. You can do that by noticing the different sounds around you. Noticing smells. Feeling the temperature of the space you're in. And coming back to noticing sensations in the body. See if you need to make any adjustments to the posture. And bringing awareness to the different points of contact of the body with the chair, the cushion, the sofa, whatever object you are sitting or laying down on. Notice sensations in the back. Notice sensations in the sit bones area. Sensations in the legs. And the contact of the feet with the ground. Also bringing awareness to the earth underneath the feet. The earth holding you and holding us all. And as we cultivate a moment-to-moment awareness, for the next few moments, just resting in the awareness of what is it like to be human? What is it like to be inhabiting this body? What does it feel like? And bringing us attitude of curiosity and a kind attention as you recognize what's here, nowhere to go, nothing to do, just simply being here. What's present with you right now? Without judging it and without wishing it to be any different than what it is. Just see if you can acknowledge what's here and allow it to be here. Feeling the body from head to toes and noticing the different sensations in the body. And as you notice sensations in the body, see if you can feel the sensation of the breath in the body. And bringing all of your attention to the breath. And with curiosity and with kind attention, feeling the breath in the body, noticing the different characteristics of the breath. And really dropping the attention in the felt sense. Really feeling the breath in the body, not thinking about the breath. But see if you can really allow yourself to experience the breath moment by moment. Maybe noticing how it enters to the nostrils. And feel it, how it travels to the lungs, maybe all the way to the belly, and comes back out. See if you can feel the aliveness of this moment with each breath. The uniqueness of this moment. Each moment is a fresh, unique. It has never happened before and never will. So we're cultivating a sense of attitude in which we are as present as we can for this human experience, this human body breathing. And very naturally, the mind wanders. The mind gets carried away. And whenever that happens, the invitation is to notice that the mind wander away from the anchor, in this time, the breath. And when you notice the mind wander away from the breath, very gently, without judgment, just bring the attention back to the breath, back to feeling the breath. And you do that as many times as you need. In fact, this practice about noticing every time the mind wanders away. So every time you notice that the mind wanders, you're actually present. That's a moment of mindfulness. And perhaps the attention is a little bit more settled. And as the body continues to breathe, I invite you to now expand the attention to other sensations in the body. Maybe very gently moving your attention from the feet all the way to the head and gently scanning the body and noticing sensations. And you might notice sensations that are pleasant, some others are unpleasant, and there are also neutral sensations, even though they're a little less interesting for the mind. They are there. So we're cultivating recognizing the sensations that are present, and to the best of your ability, allowing them to be here. Noticing how the sensations keep changing, they're impermanent. An experience that arises and passes by. Maybe taking a moment to notice what's the overall state of the body, of the physical body. Is your physical body feeling rested right now? Tired, awake, sleepy, heavy, light? Whatever you notice. Taking a moment to also acknowledge the overall state of the mind. Is the mind right now feeling busy, quiet? Sometimes labeling can help. Something as general as thinking happening. Or perhaps you notice specific kind of thoughts, worry, preoccupation, planning, future, past. Noticing how, again, thoughts is just phenomenon that arises and passes by. And taking a moment to acknowledge the state of the heart, the emotional world. What emotions are present? Taking a moment to recognize, to acknowledge, to allow them to be here. Maybe also labeling them helps. Joy, happiness, sadness, whatever that is, and see if you can not judge it, to the best of your abilities, not wishing those emotions to be any different than what they are. See if you can just for a moment open up to holding it all exactly as it is. Holding all the different emotions. And holding space for all of it, the emotions, the thoughts, sensations. All of this makes up this human experience in this moment. And what would it be like if we allow it to be here? It's all welcome in this space. There's nothing wrong with any of it. We accept it, not as a passive, accepting it as this is going to be feeling like this forever, But this is how it feels like this right now. And it keeps changing. It's impermanent. To the best of our abilities, we don't attach to it. We don't push it away. We're cultivating space, awareness to allow all of this experience to arise and to pass by. So it keeps moving. And again, only to the best of your abilities. For any reason you encounter judgment, difficulty, allowing all of it to be here, that's okay. You can hold space for that and acknowledge that that's how it feels right now. Not judge the judgment, not resist the resistance. Just bringing awareness to it. It's all welcome. The different parts of you are all welcome in this space. We're cultivating a kind of space within ourselves to allow all of this experience to be here. As we approach the end of this practice, I'd like to invite you to notice if anything has changed or what has changed from beginning of practice to now. And I also like to end with bringing attention to gratitude. And I'd like to invite you to find something that you can be grateful for in this moment. Perhaps a part of the body, a person, an event, an object, a pet, whatever that is. And notice how gratitude is experienced in the body and where in the body you experience gratitude. And if for any reason gratitude doesn't feel accessible right now, that's okay too. You can bring awareness to the fact that right now doesn't feel like gratitude is accessible to me. And I judge that, really hold space for that. But if you can, notice how gratitude feels in the body. And I invite you to also find gratitude for yourself for having made the time to be here and to be with you in this way. You could have been doing something completely different, but you chose to be here. I invite you to acknowledge that and honor that. Many days is not an easy thing to do when we have so many different distractions available. Deciding to give time for ourselves and to be with ourselves in this way feels to me like an act of radical love, radical acceptance, the beginning of cultivating that. Maybe there's something that you can consider for yourself if it resonates. When I ring the bell, I invite you to see if you can continue with this cultivation of awareness that is kind, that is curious, that is open, non-judgmental, and make the rest of the time here, the rest of your day, a continuation of your practice. So the practice doesn't stop here, but it continues as you move through the rest of your day. Thank you all for your practice today, this Saturday. Welcome to those of you that join us halfway through the seat. And yeah, thank you for practicing together. And now I'll pass it on to wonderful Jamie and wonderful Brian. So we can laugh, maybe. Is that what we're doing? Laugh therapy, guys? Guys, oh, I think you need it.
Yes. Thanks so much, Mariella. Thank you for leading us in the sit today. Yes. And yeah, a little bit of laughter. Are we gonna laugh and cry, Jamie? Or are we gonna be talking about laughter and crying?
No laughing is allowed.
Okay, no laughing is allowed. Well, also just for those who joined, and also since we have the recording, for those who couldn't attend, we are still the InsightLA Mindfulness and Deep Suffering Practice Group. We're a practice group. We're an affinity group. We like to call this the H.O.P.E group, and H.O.P.E is also an acronym that stands for Healing Ourselves Through the Present Experience. Healing Ourselves Through the Present Experience, H.O.P.E, the H.O.P.E group. And today, we got I think it's a really interesting topic. Jamie, I'm sure you do too, because you agreed to be here. That the connection between laughter and crying, the little quote that maybe you all saw, that I heard a few months ago, the ha ha is connected to the wah wah.
So tell me, Ryan, where did you get that from?
I heard that from a trainer. Um,
I thought you
yes,
made that up. That
I
sounds like
did not make that up. That is, what's a nicer way to say, what's nicer way to say plagiarized and stole?
Lovingly reused.
Okay, lovingly recycled from a wonderful trainer. And Jamie, I have a question for you.
Oh,
I have a question for you. Uh, is when you heard this theme, I know because Jamie and I are friends, as you all, I think almost all of you know, and we work together and we're friends. And so sometimes we could play with ideas. Do we want to talk about what it's like to be a suicide loss survivor, which both Jamie and I are? Do we want to talk about the importance of friendship in an increasingly disconnected world? Increasingly interconnected, but also often disconnected at times too. So for this one, I think we were both really keen on this idea of the relationship between laughter and crying, sadness and humor. What did you think of first when you heard this idea? Why did you say yes to this idea, Jamie?
why did I say yes to this idea? As a neurodiverse person, you asked me the first thing that came to mind, but I can't name one thing for you because what's actually happening is a giant tree of branching associations all lighting up at the same time. So I will try to summarize that in a way understandable by others as best I can. But one thing that comes to mind for sure is something that we say a lot, Brian, about being a counselor in the suicide hotline, which is when you tell people that you do that, often they think, oh, that must be so heavy. That sounds really depressing. Which certainly there are a lot of times when it is heavy, but people don't realize that there was also a lot of laughter in the process. Both in the break room when you're debriefing and spending time with other counselors, but also on the line with callers. Laughter is a huge part of that. So that's one thing that came to mind in my little flowy up association brain tree. Another one is the role of laughter in social connection. So we talk a lot about how, when you're suffering, when you're sad, what you really need is connection. And laughter is a biological mechanism that really facilitates that in a lot of ways that are quite implicit. Laughter is something that's done in, for example, a newer relationship to kind of grease the wheels and make both parties involved more comfortable. It can be a form of politeness, polite laughter. There's nervous laughter. There's also the kind of helpless, contagious laughter, which we really find only happens between people who have a somewhat closer relationship. So when you have that helpless, contagious laughter, you're usually sharing it with somebody who you know fairly well and that you like. And in fact, what we find in research, and this is interesting, when you laugh at something in a social setting where you're in a group, the person that you look at as you're laughing is the person who you tend to be the closest with.
Wait, really?
Yeah, really. So next time you're laughing in a group, see who you're looking at and also see who's looking at you.
Wow. That is so interesting. The
So it serves
person,
an important social function.
wow.
It's a bonding mechanism. And also I remember, when I was in like middle school, my dad made me read this book about transactional analysis, much of which I do not remember anymore. But I do remember them saying that laughter was an okay mechanism, meaning it was kind of an expression of relief and a way of implicitly communicating, like, don't worry, everything is okay.
Yeah.
And if you think about times when we laugh, a lot of when we laugh, it's not just because the joke is objectively hilarious in some way. There is a social context for it that's eliciting the laughter from us. But also think about like a kid watching Looney Tunes, right? Like, why are they laughing when an anvil falls on that thing's head? It's because it's kind of like a roller coaster or a horror movie. There's like a little bit of fear or danger, like, oh no, an anvil is crushing that cartoon bird or whatever. And then the kid also, in the same moment, knows it's okay. It's not actually in danger. I'm not actually in danger. Everything's okay. So
Wow.
if you look at
What?
times when you laugh, you can kind of see all of those roles that it serves intertwining in various ways. The role of laughter as a social lubricant or connector, and as a way of expressing relief. Similarly, when you're suffering and you are connecting with someone, laughter can help bring you together, which is what you need when you're suffering. And
Right.
also, it does bring afterwards this feeling of intense relief. And like, okay, things are not okay, but like things are tolerable. There's this feeling of well-being that happens after you laugh.
It's I mean, isn't it interesting? But I just learned doing a little bit of research for this that there's a whole field of study
Oh yeah.
about laughter and humor. They have a word, like my world is called thanatology, the study of death and dying and bereavement. And theirs is called gelotology, Gelotology, the study of laughter and humor. And it's just so interesting. The two of the things that really excited me about this talk here, one of both of which you already discussed. And I like when you were talking about the social connection. It's almost like with people that with whom we have a connection, when there's laughter, there's this contagious, it's like a tuning fork goes off inside us and it
Right.
sort of like reverberates, you know?
And
But the
nothing
two,
funny is happening. You're just
right.
kind of, it's this
Yeah.
dynamic between the two of you. It's so implicit on such a deep level that you can't resist it even if you try.
Yeah. And so the one of the things I was really interested in is I remember there's times when I was younger and me and my friends and I, shit, which one is it, Jamie? Okay, who cares? My friends and I, we were like being chased. You know, when you're kids, you get into trouble and you're being chased by, one day you're chasing someone and the other day they're chasing you. So some friends, we were being chased. And it looked like for a little bit. Yeah, me too. Uh, for a bunch of us, or excuse me, when we were running, we thought we were going to be caught by these guys, right? We didn't throw eggs at their window, but it was something sort of kind of little boys being silly. And then when we got away, when
Uh-huh.
we actually knew that we were safe, we all started laughing. So we went from this, uh-oh, almost crying because we could get caught by these bigger, adolescents.
Mhm.
And then it was the relief and the laughter. And something else that I was looking in this gelontology field, they were saying that laughter increases our threshold for pain tolerance. We can actually withstand more pain, either more pain or more pain, or the intensity of one pain
Mhm.
more from laughter. So laughter also, it's like the window of tolerance, but for laughter gets expanded through pain, excuse me. The window of tolerance for pain, tolerating pain
Through
expands.
laughter.
Yeah, through
Right, like
laughter.
how listening to your favorite song can help you tolerate pain at the dentist.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah, you didn't hear that study? Oh, it's so
No.
interesting. Yeah, which is why I recommend bringing your AirPods or headphones with you if you were undergoing a dental procedure so you can turn on your favorite song. Also, if
Wow.
you get like any kind of medical scan, it's very loud. So generally they'll
Yeah.
let you listen to music and they'll ask, okay, what are your favorite songs? And they'll play your favorite music for you to make it more tolerable.
Wow. Wow. Well, I mean, and so this idea of intense experiences and intense emotions, right? And laughter, you said this, laughter helps us to express intense emotions, um, and not get stuck, and not to feel alone either. Oh, you want to hear a joke? Jamie, do
Choice.
do you
And
want to?
Brian, you know that I'm neurodiverse and that my sense of humor is to say no when I actually mean yes.
I know that's what
No, that
I
if you
know.
ask me
Me
that
too.
question, I
Me
have to say
too.
no, but I mean
I
yes.
I think that was funnier than the actual joke. Okay, here's the joke, Jamie. How many psychotherapists does it take to change a light bulb?
One, but the light bulb really has to want to change. I'm a psychologist.
No, it's basically the same. It's I'm just reading it now. None. The light bulb will change itself when it's ready.
No, I like mine answer better. Sorry.
Oh, so and Jamie, you mentioned,
Light bulbs need connection to change too, Brian.
oh, you're right.
Light
You're
bulbs shouldn't
right.
have to do it on their own.
You're right. I don't want to give the impression that light bulbs need to be alone and suffer in silence. You're exactly right. I'm
Light
sorry.
bulbs deserve a therapist too.
Light
Or a
bulbs
friend,
deserve,
a supportive
wait,
other of some kind.
even the old type that weren't environmentally friendly, they deserve help too?
Oh yeah, they need it
Oh,
most.
it's very magnanimous of you, very open-minded. So wait, Jamie, talk if you can a little bit more about your experience at the hotline, because it sounds a lot like it's been my experience in grief groups, where I thought that it was going to be really, for me, being in grief groups, participating in grief groups, I thought it was going to be really sad and morbid. I mean, there were moments where it's very sad and very poignant, but there was so much laughter in the grief groups that I've been a part of, many support groups, 12-step support groups I've been a part of, grief groups I've been in. There's just so much more laughter than I would have expected.
Right. And more than, your average day-to-day life. Because there's that social connection that's being facilitated when you laugh. So it's serving that purpose. And additionally, it's such a relief and it's such a life affirming experience to be able to laugh. And when you are in deep suffering, when you're having thoughts of suicide or thinking quite seriously about ending your life, when everything is on fire, when you're experiencing loss, it's incredibly life affirming to be able to give in to laughter despite everything. It's almost like an act of defiance, which I had
Yeah,
another association. Um, did you ever read Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein?
I didn't know. I haven't read that.
Oh, yep. I can't read it anymore because as brilliant as a writer as he is, he's unfortunately quite homophobic, which I didn't know when I read the book as a child. But the basic idea is the main character is a human who grew up, he was raised by Martians. And so even though he is human, he is really an alien to human culture and social dynamics. And one thing he really can't understand is laughter. He can't understand it. So at one point, he's at the zoo with a friend, and he sees this horrible, violent scene that is happening with the apes, where like one of them attacks the other, and it's an atrocious scene. He starts just dissolving into helpless laughter. And the friend that is with him, Jillian, is just in shock because he's never laughed before in his entire life. And what he says is that he finally understands why humans laughed. And humans laugh because it hurts.
Wow. We laugh because it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's intolerable to keep it all inside, right? I mean, for me, it has been. And
Release
uh,
valve.
yeah. In fact, there's that the expression wait, there's a turn of phrase that people have. I was looking at it earlier. Oh, laughter through tears. In fact, it's there is both the sound that people, I, for example, make when I'm crying and sobbing so deeply, and it sounds a lot. A lot of the same body parts. The diaphragm, the and there's a similar sound. And also, there are times when I'm laughing and crying at the same time.
Yeah.
At the hotline, you said this a bit ago, when people call, and once they know that we're not going to tell them not to kill themselves, we're not going to tell them to cheer up, we're not going to tell them to, you know, we're not going to treat them like they are uh, broken. People have this relief. They exhale. We can hear it on the phones. Oh, finally somebody gets it. And then laughter too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, okay, now I'm back. I'm back among the humans. I found some people that get me. I'm not an alien anymore. I don't feel like an alien. And a lot of people call and say, my family, my partner, my school, they make me feel like I'm weird, I'm broken, I'm an alien,
Yeah.
and laughing and crying our way back into each other's arms.
Right. So when you've been alienated, it's a way of reconnecting with humanity in a larger scale. And there were a couple associations that came from me when you were saying that. So again, I can't just respond in a linear fashion. I've just got to like throw associations that I have at you. One is I'm remembering a wonderful episode of, I think it was Invisibilia. I don't know if anyone else has listened to it. It was about an anthropologist who visited a tribe known for headhunting, and he was endeavoring to try to understand where this cultural phenomenon was coming from. And in doing so, and living among them, he discovered this word that had no direct translation, and it was an emotion for which there's no direct correlation in any other culture. It was legate. And the way he described it, it was a feeling of like energy that needed to get out. And the moment the anthropologist truly understood it was when his own wife died. And having been immersed in this culture for all of these years, it kind of gave him a framework to understand and express the unbearable pressure that was building up inside of him in his grief. And he describes pulling over his car and just kind of rocking and just like making noise. And I was thinking of that when you were talking about how when you laugh and cry at the same time, there's this kind of unconscious sound that comes out of you. And so maybe there's something in just like the discharge of sound that is part of the relief and part of the healing process, in addition to the piece where it also connects you to humanity as a whole. So maybe laughter is a form of legate.
Wow. How do you spell it? Leggett? Do you remember how do you spell it?
I can Google it because I can guess, but I'm going to say it wrong.
That's so interesting. And I've been really into and learning more about sociometry and psychodrama, the 100-year-old oh, thank you, Jamie. The Oh yeah, thanks for Googling it.
I'm going to put a link in the chat.
Oh, great. Um, and maybe we can maybe this might be my last comment, and then maybe you can have a last one to kind of wrap things up too.
Mhm.
So I'm really interested these days in sociometry and Jacob Moreno and Zerko Moreno and folks that did a lot. Not a lot of people know about them, not enough. There are people who are involved in Moreno was one of the first people, if not the first person to use the phrase group psychotherapy. He was really interested in the connections between us. Anyways, I'm saying all this to say that they were really interested in role theory, the connections between us, sociometry, which is this social sociometry. And the one thing I just wanted to share about is they and we talk about something called act hunger.
Mm.
Act hunger.
Yeah.
We all have it. And that's just one phrase for what we're describing. And for example, the simple exercise just to kind of illustrate this, demonstrate it. I mean, I'll do it right now just for you, Jamie, and others here will see it and hear it. And Jamie, you can just feel what's about to happen. I think I've done this to you before. Jamie, you
Yeah.
can just feel for us here what this is like. And Jamie, try not to say anything. Bup, 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 bup. Exactly. So bup, 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 bup. So
It
that,
hurts not to do it.
yeah, so
It
that
hurts.
moment there at the end where I want to say bup, bup so bad. This act hunger, this yearning. And when you were talking about Leggett, we have these urges, we have this pressure, we have these tears, we have this laughter, we have these ideas, we have these emotions, we have this anger, all these things inside us, right? That want to come out, the tears, they want to come out, right? But for some of us, we have learned along the way, either explicitly or implicitly, you can't let that out. You can't let that anger out. You can't let those tears out. You can't laugh. That's not appropriate. So maybe our work in life is to find people who help us feel less alone, right?
Mhm.
And then walking with these people with whom we feel safe, and then helping each other to let out what wants to be let out, whether it's the stories, the tears, the laughter, the pain, the anger. This is, the unfairness of life. Um, and thank goodness there's more than one way to get it out. It's not just tears, right? It's not only laughter. There's so many different ways. Mr. Rogers, he swam every morning of his life. And that was how he got his leg it out. Am I using that right? Yeah. He got his leg it out. Um, and thank goodness there's so many ways when we get stuck. So Jamie, can I pass it over to you for maybe a final reflection or
Okay.
comment? Can you
My other
summarize in
suggestion.
10 seconds the history of psychology, humor, laughter, tears,
Was that a joke too?
and love? Go ahead.
Okay. No, but we were talking about laughter on the hotline. And I
Yeah.
thought I would end this with a specific thing that once happened on the hotline, which Brian, you were also a part of, as you are of all of the great stories of things happening at the hotline.
I love you.
We talk to so many people. And also there are little moments like this that just kind of stick out to you and stay with you forever. I remember one person in particular who it started off as a chat. So we were chatting on an instant messaging. And actually, a lot of people prefer when they're struggling, instead of calling the hotline, to do the chat because it feels safer. It feels more anonymous. It feels more secure. So I was talking to this person for a couple of hours over the chat, and she was thinking quite seriously about dying by suicide. And at that point, we'd built up enough rapport that she was open to a phone call. And over the chat, I was concerned. There was no tone. All of the little bits of social data that we normally are picking up on implicitly just weren't there. So I didn't really know where this person was at. I pick up the phone and she's already laughing and crying at the same time. And immediately, like, I feel that connection. I feel like I understand her headspace so much better just hearing that social data. So after talking to her, she agrees to stay safe, at least until receiving a follow-up call from the lovely Brian, and had to end the call because her mom had ordered a pizza. Do you remember this one, Brian?
Oh,
The
shit.
pizza one?
Yeah.
So then, of course, Brian does the follow-up call and calls and asked her how the pizza was, and if like the pizza was good enough that it, reaffirmed her desire to live. And, it's at this point that the caller admitted, like, no, it was like really shitty, like, what was it? Little Caesars or something. It was just like a really cheap pizza, which, no shade, it has its own charm, but it's not like a life affirming pizza. And Brian, you said something about, like, didn't your mom know that your life depended on this pizza? And do you remember what
Yeah.
happened after that? She thought that was so funny, and it was.
Yeah. There's a few, I count on one hand, that I remember these moments of laughing with, not laughing at, laughing with each other. And I mean, Vic, kind of very quickly, can I tell you one other? There was this
No,
kid,
you already established my
the-
sense of humor, Brian. I have to say no.
so he called and I think he was like 18, and he had a really tough time in life. I mean, just, a really, really tough time. And he had called and he had said he had experienced bullying. He would travel, he had to move all over the country. And he was telling me about the different types of attempts that he had made. He had tried different methods along his way as he was living in different states in America, and always moving around and having a really hard time to find his tribe, find his family, his found family, his people. And so he was telling me he did this method, that method, that method. And I go, uh, I, I said something that, he was doing all these, and you could tell he had a good sense of humor, right? I think he even talked about graphic novels and comic books. So I felt like we had some rapport there because I get that stuff too, video games we were talking about. And he said, this method, that method, that method. And I said to him, I said, buddy, have you ever thought that you might be a superhero and you can't die? Have you ever thought that you might be Superman? And he started laughing. And again, this was not within the first 30 seconds of the call. This was after 45 minutes,
In the
and
context of a relationship.
yeah,
You built.
I don't think, I know that the reason that I let myself say that was because I felt this relationship. I felt this back and forth. He would talk and he would talk until he had finished saying whatever it was he said, and then there would be silence. And then I would share and he would listen to me and talk and I would reflect back, and we were listening to each other. We were so present with each other, which I don't know about you all or you, Jamie, but out in the world, everybody is, sometimes people we're in the future. What am I going to do after this meeting ends? We're in the past. Oh, is that person going to be mad that my email came late? And then we're so present with each other at the hotline, just like in groups and support groups, here in this community here. And so that's what felt okay to laugh and make a joke. And goodness, if some life is so hard that sometimes laughter is the best way, sometimes the only way, I think, to move through that which is otherwise intolerable and painful. So yeah, I still remember that kid. I just remember hearing his laugh after I said that thing, like, yeah, you might be Superman. So anyways, why don't we wrap it up there? Went a little bit long, but I hope this conversation, these reflections that Jamie and I shared about sadness and laughter and tears and humor and the whole sort of like John Kabat-Zinn when he said that the full catastrophe, like the
Full
whole thing,
catastrophe living.
the
Mhm.
serious and the silly, the ups and the downs. And thank you, Jamie, for being here to share.
Thank you, Brian.
And let me turn off the recording so we can have community.